Good evening, wherever you're joining us today. My name is Luke Bragg. I am one of the co-founders of Profila. This is Zeek Week. We're launching our Zeek token, which is the circulatory system of our platform. It's the coin of the realm. And this is the final chapter of a series of articles I wrote on the Profila way, explaining some of the more philosophical tenets of what is Profila, why are we doing this, and the scope and ambition of what we want to do in improving the world and correcting some of the things that we see are lacking in social media platforms and customer relationships and a lot of other areas. So today's article is entitled, "This is what the world looks like when we win, all of us." And that's a key point about Profila is, that I mentioned in one of the other talks, we're building this for ourselves. We build this because we want agency and sovereignty with the brands and organizations that we deal with. We want to regain control of our personal data, and we want to change how all these things work by introducing a better product into the market. You, and the things that are in your head and in your heart. So this article talks a bit about how change happens, but also what the world looks like, what your world looks like, jumping into the future when you have a mature Profila, and how it improves your life in a lot of different scenarios. Whether it's in the Profila platform, both now and how it will expand in the future. Also, how you can use Profila in other parts of the web, whether it's streaming platforms or sites like Airbnb and Booking.com, where you can inject intelligence into what they're doing with the things that you care about the most captured in your Profila. But also out in the world. Your Profila is a traveling companion that will will go out in the world with you via your mobile device and be able to improve your daily life, whether it's needing to prove certain things about your life, your identities or your credentials or certificates. It could be a retail experience by, again, injecting the insights from your Profila to better match you with the products and services you want out in the world. In restaurants, being able to interpret their menu based on your allergies and diet requirements, things like that. And that's just the beginning. It's interesting that a couple months ago, a few people learned about AI agents, but very quickly we realized that your Profila is your prompt. That as AI agents and as an example of something that new comes along, will be better, will serve you better if you can inject parts of your Profila as background information for an AI agent who perhaps is looking for a package holiday for you. Other things you need to tell in terms of where and when and such. But everything else will come from your Profila. All the travel questions you've answered, all the shopping and all your micro preferences and sentiments about how you like to travel. That's what these agents need to better serve you. And those things will be stored in your Profila, which means that each additional idea that comes along long after we've launched, long after you've joined, will always be able to be accommodated by your Profila based on our two basic tenets, that it's you, it's yours. It's you, meaning it is the greatest collection, the greatest vault of insights about you, any place in the world. There's nothing that a data broker has about you. There's nothing that Google or whoever has about you that is higher quality than your Profila, because it's a combination not only of your personal information, your credentials, but also your psychographics, based on all the self-discovery quizzes that you'll love taking in Profila, and also the first-party data you can draw in from the services that you use. And it's yours, meaning you always have full control over who has access to facets of your Profila, all based on consent and transparency and revocability when required. The article today, published today, Chapter 6, is a small sample of the ideas that are in my head about how Profila will influence and change the world. And it lines up with something that is very, very part of my character and part of my education. If you've ever had conversations with me, you may find out that I'm a political scientist by education. And one of the books that has influenced me the most is something, actually, I still have the copy of this from my college days. And it's called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Thomas Kuhn. It was actually in a European history class, but I've also seen it taught in MBA courses as well. The structure of scientific revolutions. What it's really talking about is a phrase that Thomas Kuhn popularized, paradigm shift, which nowadays is kind of bastardized and not used correctly. It kind of means when you change your mind or something changes. But it's much more fundamental than that. What he talks about are the stages when a current paradigm, and his example is Ptolemy, which for 2,000 years, the Ptolemy view of the universe, that the sun revolves around the earth, was what the most educated people on earth believed. Even though it had continued problems with answering questions that people were observing in the stars and the heavens and other things on earth. But that does, just because a paradigm doesn't work very well doesn't mean it dies on its own. And obviously the current analogy is how customer relationships, how the internet, how personal data, how all these things flow, which have evolved over the years for a lot of different reasons. Platforms just need to pay the bills and need to find a way for revenue, and the default in human experience is advertising. And even though we know this paradigm is broken, we know that it doesn't serve its people, it doesn't serve anybody really, except for those who seek to track and surveil us. Paradigms don't die, just like Ptolemy, just like the current paradigm of the internet. They don't die on their own. They can only die when something comes along that answers the questions better. A paradigm that is fully formed, conscious of itself, and addresses the anomalies of the previous paradigm and provide a much better vision of the world. Kuhn talks about the idea, which I mentioned in a previous article, that if you tear down a building with no clear idea what's going to replace it, you end up just building the same building again. And that you see the same thing with countries after wars without a clear idea or a clear history of how to improve themselves. They end up going back to their bad habits. We see that often in the world. Well, in Kuhn's mind, in his book, obviously the paradigm that came along was from Copernicus, who through his observations was able to understand better the movements of the heavens, the movements of the stars, and created a heliocentric world that just made more sense. But even then, even though it was a better paradigm, it became a very political battle because there were a lot of vested interests in defending the old way. And the idea that man was not the center of the universe was very threatening to certain institutions and mindsets. And it took some time before Copernicus's view of the world finally won out, not just because they answered the questions better, but because the advocates of the old paradigm were no longer around. We think we are in the same position, that since the beginning, since I first met Sean and Michiel and we started this journey, we had a very, very clear idea of what personal data, privacy, customer relationships, all these things, all about empowering individuals, giving them superpowers, letting them control the most important, accurate, authentic, and valuable information about themselves. We could see what it looked like. We could see what a mature profile looked like. And that has been our driving force for the last several years. Now we go to market with the MVP of the Profila platform. And we are 1% of where we know we're going to go in the future. And we also know that we want to create an incentive structure that great ideas can come from outside of Profila, that economies can be built on top of our both Profila and data contracting engines. We will create new economies, and we are creating a new paradigm for how these things can work. And of course, the challenge is that, again, there are a lot of vested interests, whether it's data brokers or the current platforms that you use, who want things just to stay the same. They want to keep making their dollars off of you, off the back of you and your data. As someone said, if you're not buying a product, then you are the product. But our paradigm is centered on you. That's why our tagline is, it's you, it's yours. And that's a struggle. That is a challenge when you're going up against $1 trillion industry that knows it can improve, but who's going to take that first step? And it's interesting in this journey, when we talk to brands, we talk to partner organizations, we talk to individuals, we talk to anybody, and somebody finally gets what we're doing. And the reaction many times is the same. I just didn't know. I didn't know the scope and the ambition of what Profila was trying to do. Because we're focusing on really the first use case, which is customer relationships, which is something that everybody can understand. But that's only the third pillar of the 3 pillars of Profila, which I've done in presentations. I think I went through those slides with Cole Bartlett from Unbox earlier this week. First pillar being your Profila, the second pillar being the data contracting layer, your ability to consent to these sort of things. And the third pillar I call markets and mechanisms. So again, our first scenario, what's in the Profila platform now, is customer relationships. You and the brands that you love interacting better. They know more about you, therefore they can market to you smarter. You're happier, less clutter, everybody wins. That's only the first in many, many different scenarios that either we'll come up with or also people outside of our world will come up with, because we do not want to be a walled garden. So if you're thinking of creating a better dating site that exists now, build it on top of the Profila platform, because nothing is going to be able to match people with people better than what's in their Profila, what's in their head, and what's in their heart. Their psychographics, that's the best source of information, the best source of smart matchmaking, which I think is the future of marketing. It won't be the searching and stalking that we have now that is both incredibly inefficient and very ineffective. In the future, it will be smart matchmaking. Here's who I am. Here's all the things you know about me. Now let's match me up with the products and services that you sell. And that's a very, very powerful model that will be much more cost effective for brands, much less clutter for individuals, also that sense of empowerment that we strive for in everything that we design and that we do. Now, in this series of articles, we've tried to lay out our entire philosophy and how we approach these sort of things. So chapter 1 was about our vision, the Profila way. That's our mission. We are a mission company. We repeat that in many ways. We have a very clear idea of what we're trying to do. Chapter 2 was about you. The fact that you are our partner and brands are our customers, and we're going to market with you with the best product out there in the world, you, with you controlling it. Chapter 3, remind myself here, chapter 3 was something that I'm very, very passionate about. There was a brand a long time ago that had the mantra of don't be evil. Yet over time, they did many, many things that some people considered evil, and they moved away from their original mission, because don't be evil is a pretty vague concept, and nobody thinks they're evil. Our mentality in chapter 3 is that we want to state unequivocally the things we will do and the things we will never do. We will never sell your data, ever. That's not our model. It will never be our model. Part of my responsibility is to help design incentive structures for Profila that we never violate our principles, because our principles is going to be a great business model. And if we violate our basic tenets, our core tenets, we shouldn't survive. So that's why chapter 3 is about, here are the things we'll never do. We want to paint ourselves into a corner. And if we don't uphold our values, hold us to account. It's very important for us. Chapter 4 was a little bit of a snapshot into how we see technology. We are not a technology company specifically. We are focused on the application of technology. And so when concepts come about, like zero-party data, which in the future you'll just call your Profila, and zero-knowledge services, zero-knowledge advertising, what we want to do always with any of these emerging technologies, including, for instance, now AI agents, we want to integrate them elegantly to give you more and more superpowers. That's how we view technologies. They are empowering. And what Profila is trying to do now, we probably could have done 10 or 15 years ago, because the technologies didn't exist. Blockchain wasn't strong enough, and a blockchain like Cardano didn't even exist, one that's matches very, very closely with our mission as well. You know, zero-party data is the ultimate expression of decentralization, and Cardano is the right blockchain to support that. But every technology, whether it's AI or again, zero-knowledge advertising, or anything comes down the road, we very, very quickly understand how we can leverage that for you. And that's the kind of technology company that we are. We're not beholden to any specific technology or even specific blockchain. We want to simply aggregate things in the way that serve you the best. It's the same when we talk about digital IDs and wallets. We're not getting into that business ourselves, but we want to aggregate that, any digital ID and wallet that you have, and then provide features on top of that that allow you to use those as you go through your life and be able to prove the facts of your life whenever's necessary. As someone who lives outside of my home country as an immigrant, I'm often required to provide evidence of things for immigration or for whatever purposes. And if the fact that they could be secure on my phone forever, accessed when I need it, is a nice case study that I think is going to benefit a lot of people. And then chapter 5 was about how we view the features that we want to develop in the future. And I always think of my mother when I think of how to roll out a feature. I want something that is useful, and then we want to make it powerful, and then we want to make it easy. And that's our mindset with every feature we develop. And I guess the fourth part of that would be how Zeek flows through it. What are the earn and burn scenarios for our token, which is the coin of the realm of the Profila platform. And then today's article is kind of a summary, kind of jumping forward a little bit to help you imagine and hopefully provoke some ideas in your own mind of what the world looks like when Profila is a foundational stone, a foundational part of a much, much better internet, where things are more decentralized, where individuals have agency and sovereignty over the most important things about them, that they have consensual relationships with brands, with organizations, with each other that are clear, transparent, and the ability to revoke those contracts when need be. So I wish you would read through the article and read some of the scenarios, just a few of the many, many that are in our minds that we want to enable in the future. And it's a bright world. And it's incredible how a simple mindset change, going from a Ptolemy world where the Earth is the center of the universe, to a Profila world where you're the center of the universe. It is a new paradigm. It will be fought tooth and nail by those who profit from you and your data. They will fight tooth and nail to maintain the current paradigm, which doesn't do a very good job of solving the problems. But eventually we will win, and you will win. All of us will win because of Profila, its mission, our dedication to that mission. And we're very, very proud of what we built. Looking forward to going to market this year. And we want to thank the Cardano community for supporting us for many years. And as I said, this is Zeek Week. We have our Zeek token on the markets in MinSwap and LCX. You can see links via the Profila Twitter account. You've got the rest of the day here to buy your tokens and then connect your wallet to Profila, earn some more, and be able to use them for your own benefit on the platform and also trade it as required. But I'd hold them, because when we start bringing new brands on, when we start expanding our presence, Zeek's going to get more and more valuable as we go on. So that is the end of the last session, live session for this week during Zeek Week, covering the 6 chapters of the Profila Way. My name is Luke Bragg. I'm one of the co-founders of Profila, and I wish you a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend and a wonderful Valentine's Day, wherever you are and whoever you're with.